We moved into an apartment not know where the gas meter was, assuming it was in the basement, which we are directly above. 6 months into our lease we were contacted by the gas company, Con Edison, saying the gas meter was in our unit and they needed access to it for an upgrade or we will be fine. That is when we discovered our landlord had built a wall over the fucking gas meter. The landlord is refusing to take the wall down. We explained that to Con Edison and they said it was our responsibility to provide access, and the wall is between us and our landlord. No, it's between us and the fucking gas meter. Until they can replace the old meter we will be charged $100 a month. I asked them if they would come and take the wall down, if we have them access to our unit. They said they didn't have the authority to do so. I'm not sure how else I'm supposed to give access besides taking a sledgehammer to the wall myself. What are my legal options here? This seems crazy to me and I'm pissed to be charged for a situation I have absolutely no control over. After getting stonewalled by the gas company's customer service, I found the personal cell of the SVP of Customer Relationships and called her. Her office got on it and is having an inspector come out next week. After they document the situation, I will contact code enforcement. I've been extremely tired lately and completely forgot to mention that there is a small peephole in the wall you can read the meter through. I can't find the emergency shutoff valve either anywhere in the kitchen or in the part of the wall I can see into. I think it's farther up in the wall. The reason I am tired is we have a colicky newborn baby. So we are bracing for the possibility of moving with a newborn. This is unfortunately not an update on how the situation resolved. New and interesting legal problems are coming up. Following the advice of commenters on the original post, we called 311 and got both a referral for a free consult with a housing lawyer and filed a DOB complaint. An hour after we filed the complaint, our landlord called us fully freaking out. He said according to the terms of our lease, we would be liable for any of his legal fees, including the fines from the DOB, which he said would be tens of thousands. He then accused us of making all the other DOB complaints on the building, which include leaky gas pipes and our fire escapes being death traps. Nice to know. He told us it would be in our best interest not to let the DOB inspector in. So we let the building inspector in. The wall covering the gas meter is only the tip of the "wow, you really shouldn't do that with gas pipes" iceberg. The building inspector filed a violation and gave our landlord 48 hours to fix all the issues. The lawyer we did a consult with laughed when we told him all this. We called him back after the first consult. He said his retainer is $250 and we are waiting until the end of the day to decide if we should hire him. Our best case scenario at this point would be for the landlord to do enough to keep the unit inhabitable for another month, and then let us out of our lease in mid-August. We used documents shared on my first post to find all the other obvious code violations in the unit, and informed the landlord about all of them at once. Hopefully we can annoy him into letting us quit our lease. Any additional advice would be welcome. We are still processing how bonkers this situation is. The landlord just sent us a bill for $7,500. Hi, I am the person whose landlord built a wall over the gas meter and then tried to force me to pay there to be fines. I wanted to update because the way this shook out was legally interesting. After my last post, we hired a lawyer to review our situation and dig into some public records. My landlord took down the offending wall in front of the meter, but was still demanding the seving. We requested records from the Housing and Community Renewal Division and the DOB, and also from some other databases my lawyer had access to. Here are all the ways my landlord done fucked up. He improperly filed paperwork to set up the LLC he used to hide his ownership of our building from tenants. He improperly handled funds for our security deposit. He violated the warranty of habitability and would need to pay us back at least 30% of all the rent we had paid. About 8, he appears to have illegally deregulated our unit, which was rent stabilized before he bought the building, and would be liable under state law for the overcharged rent and treble damages, one known exact amount, but a lot. He had retaliated against a good faith to be complaint with an illegal fine, and any attempt on his part to collect it would entitle us under state law to treble damages, about 20. Despite what he believed in NY, the clause that we have to pay his legal fees also applies to him if the judge ruled in our favor, another few $1,000s. All that being said, we were still bound by the terms of our lease, which required us to find a new tenant to take our place if we wanted to leave. The lawyer told us that if we just left, a unilateral surrender of the unit state law said our landlord had a duty to mitigate, that is to fill the unit as quickly as possible, and charge us only for the hopefully short time it was empty. However, all evidence points towards my landlord being a greedy motherfucker, and we expected that a unilateral surrender, while the most ethical option from our perspective, we didn't want to convince another innocent person to live here, would likely lead to a long legal battle. Our lawyer was delighted by the prospect of savaging this man in court, but acknowledged going to housing court could make renting again more difficult for us. We were pretty conflicted about how to proceed. It really feels like when you are dealing with somebody like my landlord, you should just be able to go in front of a judge and say, "Your Honor, fuck this guy." But unfortunately, contract law still protects assholes. So here is a bit of backstory not in my last posts. I have been living with a disability for the last 20 years. We don't have to get into details, but it's psychiatric and neurological. And when I first got diagnosed, my medical team basically said, "LMAO, yeah, you're fucked. Maybe apply for Social Security." Despite that, I have managed to work full-time at a demanding job, and my symptoms have been under control. Then I got pregnant. I had a horrible pregnancy with painful complications during as well as postpartum. I was hospitalized multiple times. And I was also dealing with problems at my job. You can look at my post history, it's been a shit Sunday of a year. By the time the situation with my landlord came to a head, my health was extremely dire and getting worse. My parents, who I have a great relationship with, they are the top shelf of boomers, offered to take us in while I got back on my feet, but we had to break our lease first. I didn't include any of this sob story in my first post because it wasn't legally relevant. Or that is what I thought. Turns out NY has had a law on the books for a while that if an elderly person's health deteriorates, they are allowed to break their lease without penalty if they are moving either to a care facility or to live with family. In 2019, the state amended that law to include disabled people. I discovered this law by accident. I never told my lawyer about my health problems, and when I brought it to him, he said I should be covered under the law. I got letters from my doctors outlining my disability, as well as a letter from my parents confirming I would be living with them, rent-free, for 6+ months, and detailing what care they would be providing. My lawyer sent those along to my landlord, along with a letter explaining that my right to move under state law trumped his lease, and if he tried to haul me into housing court, the judge was going to get the full list of all his sins, and we would counterclaim for upwards of $30,000. He caved immediately and let us use our security deposit for last month's rent. Our security deposit was several $100s less than our monthly rent. We moved out this week and so far have heard nothing from our former landlord. Our lawyer is on standby. The matter seems settled. So, an unsatisfactory conclusion by Reddit standards. I found my post on some repost subs when I started getting random followers. Sorry to not deliver on juicy drama, but we wanted to avoid going to court. My parents have a large house in New England, on a wooded lot in a quiet suburb, and already our quality of life is 1000% better. I wake up every morning and sit with my dog and baby on a big porch looking out at trees. My son actually got to touch grass for the first time in his life. All of our friends and family live here, and after many months of being sick and isolated, I'm planning Sunday dinners. This was the absolute best outcome for me and my family.